Haribol. So last week at this little pop-up Kirtan event, we had a really nice question. And it involved the person was asking basically about the importance of pronouncing mantras correctly. Firstly, in relation to this word mantra. Mantra is a transcendental or spiritual sound that is used in meditation to bring about an internal change, purification of our heart and our mind, and making it so that we gradually become to be more actually connected with our true spiritual being. When this happens, then people's, or as it is happening, people's lives change. This world is a world of tremendous anxiety and trouble and difficulty. Or no, you guys live in a different world than majority of people experience this reality, and then after a struggle with this event called life, it ends. And that ending is also kind of quite, interesting and a difficult thing for a lot of people. So the use of meditation and mantras, it's more than just about clearing the mind or feeling a little bit of relief from the troubles of daily life. It actually helps us begin this inward spiritual journey where we come to experience our true spiritual nature. And it's within that experience that we can actually find the happiness that we seek. There is an awakening of a condition known as spiritual love or prema. And this becomes a very, I'm going to say, it is so pleasurable and overwhelming that when a person begins to have this type of an experience, their life is permanently transformed. It's something very wonderful and amazing. In this particular time, it is prescribed that this use of sacred sound is the prime means for bringing about this state of actual enlightenment, me coming to really discover who I actually truly am. The word mantra, it's made up of two parts. The first one, mana or manaha. Manaha refers to the mind. And it's quite interesting how in this world, we're very much encouraged to become creatures, emotional creatures, just moved by whatever's going on in our mind. And we try to stimulate our mind and put things in there and stuff so that we can come, hopefully, to some happy state. But we generally find, even by stimulating the mind with so many different experiences, sensory experiences, tasting, touching, smelling, feeling, at the end of the day, we're all alone in bed and in the same place that we were before. Living in the world of the mind has become an unfortunate phenomena more so now than ever before, especially with these little guys, these things that are robbing everybody's freedom and independence by living in this world. What we're doing is living in the world of our mind, looking at what everybody else is doing, looking at different places, looking at different kinds of food, looking here, looking there, different types of clothing and ways of decorating the body, and thinking that this will actually make me happy. And so I spend all this time in this world of the mind. And it is becoming increasingly more challenging for people when they do this. The natural result or outcome of this is that a person will become depressed. And we're seeing this catastrophic rise in depression in the world. People experiencing types of depression that were just previously unknown. You know, you look back, 20, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, life was tough. It was really tough. And you just kind of got on with it. And you took things in stride, knowing that there were good things and there were bad things, and you sort of celebrated the good stuff and tried to put the bad stuff behind you and move on. But people are losing this ability and becoming profoundly affected by whatever is going on in their mind. And so we see this massive spike in suicide, particularly with younger people, and particularly since 2012. 2012 is a kind of a baseline. When they introduced the first iPhone, they use it as a way to sort of track what's been happening. And we see this huge and unusual spike. And it's because we have been encouraged to live within the world of our mind and all the stuff that's going on and all the desires that have been created. Mantra, it means, this tra means to remove or to free a person from the control of their mind. It was understood that if you just live in the world of the mind and you letting it go and run and run and run, it's going to go to all kinds of really unpleasant places. You are going to be fed ideas that this is what you need, this will make you happy, and it's not true. And you're going to go there anyway, following all of these different proddings. And the result is going to be that you're going to feel sadness in your life. You're going to feel emptiness. You're going to look at others and think, oh, their life is so wonderful. Mine is a lousy life. I wish I could be happy like everybody else. That is a complete fantasy. Everybody's in the same boat. Everybody is quite unhappy. Just that when you've got the camera up, you're just pretending that it's all spectacularly wonderful, jumping with your friends, and it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's just a pretense. And so mantra was used. There was this understanding in these ancient cultures that the mind needed to be actually directed and managed. You don't just let it do whatever it wants. You actually have a relationship with your mind, meaning you see it as a vehicle that you can use. It should not be running your life. You should be running your mind. You should be using it for different purposes. It is like a tool. So this being able to come to a point of not being overwhelmed by one's mind and to experience more about my spiritual existence was a really important part of what's called enlightenment. And mantra was one of the primary ways in which a person could have this kind of a spiritual experience. Their life could become very spiritual. The Vedas, which are a vast, vast collection of spiritual teachings, not all on exactly the same level. Some teachings are for people that are really having a hard time down there, and to be able to elevate people. Some people are very passionate by nature, and they're really lost in the world and driven and going for it and really trying to make a huge success here. And that's okay, but at least have the understanding, whatever you build will be destroyed. Whatever you gather will be lost. In due course of time, everything will pass and everything will be left. And we will be left eventually without any of this stuff. So if you want to spend time creating and building and becoming, gathering money and everything, that's okay. But try to do it with a more spiritual purpose and focus. But then you had a category of spiritual teaching for those who are really focused upon wanting to experience spiritual enlightenment, to come to that perfect state of happiness that is our inherent right. It is part of our nature. And so the use of mantras throughout the Vedas, there are so many of them, and they all bring different types of benefit. Mantras were meant to be pronounced perfectly. They were meant to be enunciated, chanted with a perfect meter. It was like this really complex process. And for a person to be able to chant these mantras, they had to be highly, highly qualified. We're not really interested in that category. The category of mantra that we're really focused on and interested in, it has a name. In fact, they call it Nam or Shri Nam. This Nam literally means name. And it can be understood and appreciated as being literally a name of the Supreme, a name of God, something in this type of understanding makes it so people sort of are able to make some distinction and appreciate. Now this type of mantra is what will deliver the highest spiritual benefit. And the great news is you don't have to be highly qualified. You can even mispronounce. You can say it wrong. There is no wrong way. That a person, when they engage in meditation upon this sound, it has an incredibly purifying effect. So in one of these ancient texts called the Bhagavat Purana, there is a verse that states, there may be discrepancies in pronouncing mantras and observing spiritual principles. And moreover, there may be discrepancies in regard to the time, the place, the person, and the paraphernalia when undertaking these activities. But when Nama or Sri Nama is chanted, everything becomes faultless. So that was okay. We don't have to spend years studying complicated systems. A person can pick up a guitar, a harmonium, clap their hands if they want, or on beads like this in what's called japa meditation. They can chant these spiritual sounds, and it brings about profound transformation. The other point I just wanted to make is these are not something that you just pick up in Countdown. It's not something you just buy off the shelf. In fact, you can't buy mantras. Some people make a business out of, teaching these things and charging money. Anybody that does that, there is no spiritual potency. They are making sounds, but there is no transformative potency in these sounds that they are making. They've become disassociated. What was considered very important is how one received these spiritual sounds. They have this ancient tradition. It is called Guru Parampara. It means like a succession of teachers that belong to a lineage. And the lineage is known as a sampradaya. These are very ancient lineages. And it was through these lineages that the full and potent spiritual sound was passed down. And they would give an example, like in India, when they would harvest mangoes from really old mango trees. I mean, they're like huge, they're massive trees. They would like to let the fruit ripen as much as possible on the tree. The problem is when it's ripening, it's easily bruised or damaged. So they would have a system where they would have a number of people on different branches all the way up, and the person on top's picking something and handing it to the next person, or handing it down, finally received by the person on the ground who puts it in a wicker basket. And this example was given as to how one should actually receive also this spiritual sound called Sri Nama, or the holy or sacred names. So this is not only considered, this is considered actually really, really important. We don't often talk about this very much. We're kind of quite casual about things. You reckon, or what? Which is good, you know. But the reality is, behind what we are doing and what the people are trying to share with everyone is a very ancient, sacred, and very potent spiritual tradition. And when one receives this mantra, the sacred sound, in this way from someone who has received it from an empowered spiritual teacher who has received it like this in this lineage, then it has a great potency and capacity to transform my heart. About 536 years ago, there was a great spiritual teacher who appeared in the eastern part of India. That's actually a picture of him there. His name was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His appearance was predicted in the ancient scriptures thousands of years before he even showed up. And it was discussed that when he would come, this period in time in which we live is considered a rather unfortunate time. It is described that people in this time are very agitated, kind of unlucky, short attention spans, always disturbed, and prone to fighting over anything. At the drop of a hat, everybody fights over anything and everything. That is kind of a characteristic of this time. And it was stated that during this time, the use of this sacred names were in fact the only effective means for full self-realization and God realization. So there's a very well-known text, one of the Puranas, where it stated, Hariranam, 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 Iba Kevalam, Kalo Nashteva, 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 Gati Hiranyata. That in this time, this age of Kali, or known as Kali Yuga, the only real means for spiritual realization and to become truly happy was through the use of this Harir Nam, this name of Hari. Hari is another name for the highest truth or God. This name Hari is actually very wonderful. It literally means he who removes or takes away. And so our hearts become burdened with the great struggles of life. Our hearts and our minds are often plagued with anxiety and sadness and difficulty and emptiness. We want so much to exist in a state of love and happiness, to be sheltered and protected. Doesn't matter who you are. We're running a program in one of the maximum security prisons here, and we've just done a series of interviews with some of the people we've been teaching, and it's really awesome because you've got gang members, people with really tough exteriors. One guy was telling us before he took up this meditation process, he had thought that you need to have this hard exterior on the outside, that you're dealing with the world and with everybody else. And so that's threat, violence, intimidation. But inside, he said, you actually have people that are very afraid and very threatened and very weak, and they're putting out this hardness to sort of what they feel to protect themselves, because some people have had a really shitty life. They've been exposed to great difficulty over long periods of time. And he said, from this meditation, I've learned that it has to be the other way. That inside, I need the strength that comes from spiritual understanding. And then outside, I should be soft and gentle with the world. I should be careful how I am speaking to people, how I am dealing with them. And it's just like, this guy is sitting there, he's like his full body tats, and he's real, tough guy, and teeth missing and everything. And he's having these profound, transformations. And it's not like just one or two. We've got, quite large groups of people that are going through in different degrees these experiences. And this is proof, because it is proof of the power of this process of meditation. And it clearly demonstrates that it's not a question of believing anything or coming with any sort of... You can come with any ideas, any preconceptions, anything that you want. When you come and you actually open your mind, you open your heart, you allow this spiritual sound to enter, going through the ears into the heart, it actually brings about transformation and an entire change in how you experience the world and how you see things and what happens. Amongst all of the types of ways in which you can use the spiritual sound, the most potent is what's called Kirtan. Kirtan means like together in a group, to collectively engage in this process of, it's more like bathing in transcendental sound, immersing yourself in transcendental sound, and it brings about this change. And this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was described as the father of this modern Kirtan movement. He is the one that actually started it. And understanding what he was teaching and how he was teaching, and to be part of that lineage, brings about a tremendous opportunity for us to also have these transformative experiences. When we go into the jails and work there, because people are in this really bad thing. They're locked in a cage like an animal, and your whole life is controlled. And so when you talk to them, they like really listen, and they really think about it because they don't have a lot going on. We find that we're seeing in them tremendous change in a most wonderful way. In this world, people are kind of like scattered. There's so many things going on. I'm so busy, and okay, jump in a little bit of meditation. Okay, now I'm off and back into my life doing everything else I was doing. But with them, because of their situation, they don't have any choice other than to be a little bit more focused than most of us usually are. And then you see the result when people try to engage in this practice in an organized and structured kind of way in their life, daily to engage in this meditation. It brings such wonderful change. So that's about all I was going to say for now on mantra, on kirtan, and feeling very thankful to be here. These guys organizing the pop-up kirtans, and being able to share a little bit about this. So unless anybody has a question, we'll chant a little bit. All good? Okay. So we'll sing Om, Om Hari Om. When we chant these mantras, you don't have to, do anything other than just be open to participating and listening. But a real noticeable benefit comes from when we approach this in a mood of humility, not that we are know-it-all. We come to this in a mood of humility and trust, being able to open ourselves and take this transformative spiritual sound into our heart and bathe in it. And this is what brings about this change in us and a new way of living and being able to see the world. So this mantra Om Hari Om is very appropriate because in essence it can be considered like a spiritual form of prayer, and that I am wanting that the burdens in my life and the difficulty that sits in my heart and mind to be removed, and that I may come to taste actual, real, spiritual joy and happiness. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hope that wasn't too serious. Huh?